Hello everybody, this is ManuS and welcome back to the next part of the artifact set review. Today we're going to talk about the green improvements. I'm feeling better day by day, so that's pretty good. I'm going to be back to full strength in the next couple of days and ready to fight in the Seed Story Cup qualifier tomorrow. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, on to the improvements. Okay, so first off, we have Mr. Favelas. That's kind of a no-brainer. Card is a bomb in limited, one of the best limited cards. Pretty amazing. Just play that in the lane where you have the most units, preferably lane 1 or 2, because that's the lanes you want to fight for. Fighting for lane 3, especially for potential AD in lane 3, can often end up with you losing the race by a turn, so be careful with that. Other than that, the card is amazing, and even in Constructed, this is a very powerful card. For example, in like a blue-green token go white style deck, similar to the combo deck, but more focused on being proactive and overwhelming the opponent with your tokens rather than being as controlling as the combo variant is. Next we have Pass of the Dreamer. That is one of the better pass, I guess, in a way, because there's not a lot of cards that heal your tower, and healing your tower for 3 is pretty decent. Also, this is not random, unlike a lot of the other cards, so it is guaranteed to heal up the tower you play this in. Also, it heals for 3, where the other cards usually give you a marginal effect of 1. So this is kind of decent, but it still usually probably won't make it in your limited deck, simply because there are just better cards you can play, and your deck would need to be very grindy and controlling to care about this. So I still don't see it making it, and I doubt in Constructed it's much of a difference. Maybe in the long run we will have, with more sets, have cards that kind of make you want to play like a true late game kind of control deck, where this could fit in, and you would want this to sort of stabilize your tower and make it hard for your opponent to kill you while you kind of out-control them. But the problem with that is that you have 3 lanes, and healing and protecting one tower doesn't do it, and you can't move improvements, so they will just focus on the other 2 lanes at worst. So it's a bit so-so, but you can kind of try and win one, sort of stabilize one lane with this, and then another one maybe with sweepers, and then you already have like 2 lanes under control and stuff. So it could be interesting long term, but I don't see it at the moment. Next we have Unearthed Secrets, another really good card in limited. Drawing 3 cards instead of 2 each turn, or most of the turns, is really strong. You also get the card immediately, so that's nice. So it replaces itself immediately, basically. Just make sure that you choose the lane wisely that you put this in, preferably a lane further down and a lane that you are losing or that you can give up, so you can draw cards in it, maximizing the potential of this. In Constructed, this is one of the best card draw sources, and most green decks will play up to 3 of this. Next we have Altar of the Mad Moon. This card's pretty bad, and I would be very unhappy to have this in my deck. It only works on your melee creeps, making it pretty narrow, and they have +2 regeneration, and there are so many better cards to make your creeps better, like various hero signature cards and stuff like Arm the Rebellion. So this is really not what you want in your deck. I basically always end up cutting it, and I think so should you. This is just not very playable and limited, and Constructed it's not even a consideration. Next we have Home Field Advantage. This card seems a bit hard to evaluate without having played much Artifact and coming from the outside, but the card's actually really good. You usually want to put it into a lane that isn't too wide and that has a high hero ratio. So if there's a lane with multiple heroes, that's already a good target, especially if there aren't a ton of creeps, because if this hits a hero, that's usually super devastating, because the hero either takes damage over multiple turns from the creep in front of it, or might even lose the fight against your hero and just dies to it, which is super strong. And at worst, it prevents a bunch of damage on your tower, which is also really good, and slowing down the lane. The card is just Yeah, much better than it might seem without having played with it. I have been pretty impressed by this. And in Constructed, this might even be decently playable in some Constructed decks, like some sort of mid-range deck. I think I've seen some green-red decks play it, not sure if this was some kind of stock list or just someone experimenting with it, but the card seems like it could be okay in, say, green-red, where you lack removal options, for example. So, yeah, not out of the question for Constructed. Then we have Selemene's Favor, another very good card in Limited. Best use is to play this on turn 2, say from lane 1 into lane 2, and then you can play a 6-cost card on turn 2 and get your 8-drop out on turn 4 rather than on turn 6, which is super powerful. Dropping, say, a Thunderhide pack this early is super strong, and they are common, so you often end up with multiples of these in your deck. So just make sure that if you play these and stuff like Stars Align, that you have enough payoff cards, like 6+ cost cards, to get full value out of this. But this card is pretty powerful. Also keep in mind you get the mana right away. So if you play this on turn 2, you still have 2 mana left. If you play it in the lane you're playing it from. So it effectively also costs only 2 mana, 2 of your mana the turn you play it, so you can sometimes play it on like 6 mana and play another 4-cost card and then have like 9 mana next turn and stuff like that. So that's something that's not super intuitive and works different in a lot of other games. So that's worth pointing out. And in Constructed, this is also a pretty solid card that is the core of certain ramp strategies alongside Stars Align. In like the green-red ramp deck or some green-black variants. The decks are not that well positioned right now, probably, but the card in general is a pretty strong one. And then, yeah, Cheating Death, one of the most obnoxious and unfortunately also pretty good cards in Artifact. If the card wasn't so good, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but since the card is actually pretty good in Limited and Constructed, makes its design very annoying, because it's a pretty poorly designed card if you ask me, and the fact that you have to play it because it's still very good makes it just frustrating for both players. This is one of the fewer cases of bad variants in the game, where you just kind of don't even know how the variance is going to turn out until it happens, so you can't really plan for it or play around it. Play with it in mind. You just know everything you do has a 50% chance of failing and a 50% chance of succeeding, and it's going to be frustrating for either one of the players, because either your card doesn't do anything or their card doesn't do anything. It's just pretty stupid flipping coins for such critical decisions in game. I don't know what they were thinking and why they didn't change that in beta. I'm pretty sure they got plenty of feedback on this. This card is just stupid. It's just terrible, miserable experience to play with and against. It's just, yeah. The card just shouldn't exist the way it does. So, if it at least would show which is gonna die and which is gonna survive the next time it dies, that means you can at least plan. So you could still use something on a unit that wouldn't die to see if it dies next turn, on the next try, if you had to. But at least you could plan. I think that would be a great fix if they don't want to fundamentally change the card. At least remove these question marks. Just turn it into clear death or no death symbols. And every time something would die and doesn't die due to cheating death, reroll and show again what happens. So if it says it doesn't die the next time it would die, then just you can still just use something on it, and then you see afterwards if it would die on the second try, so you can try again if you really have to kill something. And if it doesn't matter that much and you know it wouldn't die on the first attempt, you just can use it on something that actually would die on the first attempt. You can plan around it, and both players can, because both players could see it. that would also make the variance in line with the whole idea of the game and the variance elsewhere in the game, where everything happens before you have to make a decision, like Bounty Hunter, for example. I honestly wish Bounty Hunter would trigger at the beginning of the turn, not at the beginning of the lane, so you can plan a bit more long term, but it's still like kind of okay. You at least know before combat in that lane and the beginning of the lane how the combat is going to turn out. So if you know it's going to lose the combat because you lost the Jinada roll, you can at least plan accordingly and take action. With Cheating Death, there's nothing you can do because you won't find out until it happens, and it's just miserable. But yeah, the card is a powerhouse in Limited and Constructed, and the way it stands, there's no way that's going to change. The card is really good against sweepers, it's really good with sweepers, it's just good in combat. It's just a powerful effect, really, and a pretty random one, and the most miserable card in the entire game. Yeah, I would hope they change it so you see what the next roll of Cheating Death would turn out like, whether the Cheating Death controller wins or loses the flip. So sure, it would change the way the card works a bit, because the opponent would not blindly waste resources on things that wouldn't die anyway, unless they really have to kill it, and they can kill it multiple times. So you just try the first time and then hope you can kill it the second time and stuff like that. But it would make the card both less ridiculously powerful and less frustrating and yeah, coin flippy, because you actually know what's going on and it works the same way as the rest of the variants in the game. Really weird that someone like Richard Garfield, that has this clear definition of good and bad variants, thinks that this somehow falls in the good variants category and is a fine card, because it really is kind of the definition of like the bad variants that he talks about, the bad, frustrating RNG. So yeah, sad to see this card in the game. Okay, enough Cheating Death rant. We are through already with all the green improvements. Let me know what you guys think about the green improvements and especially Cheating Death in the comments. You can find me on Twitter and Facebook and live streaming on Twitch. If you want to get more news and updates and catch me live streaming Draft and Constructed, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification icon for more artifact content and other card games. Also, if you want to support the content, please consider whitelisting YouTube. That would really help a lot. And yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. I'll be back tomorrow with the blue improvements. That's it again for this time. This was the artifact set review with the green improvements. I'm your host, ManuS. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.